Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for coming. Just to start out our session, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. There's back east, we go to Friends Services. We participate, we're a member of this group called Friends Services. It is a bunch of Quaker communities. Some of them are more like us, some of them are some different friend groups from around the nation. But they say, let's have a moment of silence, and it's just a good way to include everybody, and you can pray or whatever floats your boat. Okay, let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Even the fans went off. That was nice. Okay, so this is the Friends, or the Holleran satisfaction / engagement survey that you hopefully all participated in. I'll be going through it. It's right off the press. We just got the information. We've been gathering as a senior management group, figuring out how to understand it. I'll show you here a little bit. So you all participated in the survey between August 26th and September 13th. We got the results came in October 11th. Laura Fresher and Christina Jaramillo and I looked at the information and kind of got our arms wrapped around it. We presented to the senior management. We actually took a whole day and went away with the data and looked at it, and I'll walk you through how we came up with action items to work on. So then now then on the 16th, we met with Dan Kraken and Virginia and Carol Sherwood and the board chair, and I worked through and presented the findings with them. And then here's today, we're presenting it to the group. So you can see how quickly we got the information out. And I also want you to know that we're still figuring out how our action steps are going to fall in, but I'm going to show you where we are with that today. Then November 16th, we'll present to the full board. So this survey, the Holleran, is a national organization program that uses these questions in surveys across the nation. There are, let's see, I jumped ahead. So we have 356 of our current people in Friendsview that participated out of 445 independent living in the community. That's an 80% participation rate. It's very good. The average for the communities that are in Holleran have about a 67% participation rate. So our data is very sound because of the number of people that participated. This data is updated on a regular basis. It reflects surveys completed in the last 36 months of 3 years. There's currently represents 33 states, 243 other communities. So our data is compared to 243 other communities nationwide. So you'll see that as benchmarking. That's more than 99,000, almost 100,000 independent living surveys that we're compared with. Resident engagement, which is different than satisfaction. So engagement really measures how involved people are. It's not about likes. It's about creating an environment that promotes and facilitates resident investment in themselves, the organization, and the community. Creating an environment that facilitates engagement across 4 domains. So the domains are listed on the bottom there. And they address the different ways that people can be involved and engaged in a community. Extensive research by the Holleran group has determined that engagement hinges on these 4 domains: voice, connection, fulfillment, and well-being. So let's just look at those a little closer. Voice represents the degree to which residents are able to live independently and have a say in their environment and community. Successful senior living communities are ones that create an environment of respect towards residents by being transparent in the decisions that we make, offering a multitude of ways for residents to provide input and feedback to the community. So this is this is voice and how voice is measured. Connection, engagement with others, is the degree to which Friendsview makes it easy for residents to create and maintain strong social connections with others in the community and their family and friends and staff. Creating a strong social network and inclusive and accepting environment. Fulfillment, third way that information is gathered, is the degree to which Friendsview fosters an environment which residents can maintain a sense of purpose in life and pursue their goals. It involves reducing barriers to living the life that you all want and find ways to meaningfully contribute. Maintain continuity with the life that you had prior to living in Friendsview. So that's fulfillment. The last one, well-being, engagement with health and wellness, is the degree to which Friendsview provides comprehensive access to health and wellness resources, including physical, emotional, intellectual, psychological, and spiritual wellness, providing programs and service to achieve these aspects of well-being. So those 4 domains are measured with, so how you all responded to those 4 domains. The next graph shows where does Friendsview fit in with all the other communities, and we're right in the middle, or 4. Friendsview Engagement Index is 4. We perform similarly to the typical average senior living community. I think we're better than typical, but I think there's some special things about us. But in terms of these questions, we fell right in the middle. We do well, but there's still room for improvement. So here was the score, the percentile score that we got for those 4 domains. And some of the questions, there's a few questions that fit in under each domain that were answered. Resident Engagement Index represents Friendsview's performance compared to other 243 communities in the Holleran benchmark group. So you had 2 sets of questions that you answered in the survey. The first ones were satisfaction questions, so half of the questions were just purely about satisfaction, and the other half were about engagement. And these are all the questions. This kind of one view of kind of the raw data. So one thing to notice is, I wish I had is the top line there. It says overall satisfaction. That's very good. We got 80 percentile for overall satisfaction. I'll show you another overall satisfaction screen in a minute. And you can see that the green are positive responses to the survey questions. The blue are like a 3. So if you put, let's see, was it 5 was the best? Is that right? Or 1 is the best? 5 is the best. 5? If you put 5 or 4, we would have been in the green. Your response would have been in the green. Put a 3, be in the blue. If you put 1 or 2, you would have been in the red. So for one like understanding transition criteria, you can see we had a largest group, or one of the largest groups of negative responses, 18%, and quite a few people that were neutral about it. Some of the other ones, like quality of medical care, service outside of business hours, you can see that more people were negative or neutral with those. Now here's the engagement questions, and it's a similar way to look at it. Transparency with residents got a 19% neutral and 13% negative response. So you can kind of see the ones that we were having trouble with the questions. And then, but even with all that, with all this, a lot of positive comments, but even with all this, we still have really great overall satisfaction, which is measured by the question, what's your overall satisfaction? You're in the 72nd percentile in the Holleran benchmark. And we also, this question about would you tell your friend or relative about Friendsview, and we got pretty good marks there. This survey also provided details from the survey we did in 2019, which was before COVID. For those of you who were here then, you might remember we did the survey just before COVID hit, and we didn't even present the data because COVID started and we just shut down. And we didn't do any surveys through COVID or the construction. It was a rough time here at Friendsview during all that. But we decided now's the time to get it back out and do it again. So you'll see some of the 2019 responses too. So where do we focus our attention as senior management? How do we decide out of all those responses where we focus our attention? So there's several factors that we look at. Significant yearly comparison. So the 2019 survey and the 2024 survey, were our scores higher or lower than we scored last time? Actually, all of our scores were lower than we were in 2019. And it's not really a surprise. We've changed so much, we've been through so much. Then we also look at the top and bottom 15% benchmarks. So what did we get the highest scores on? What did we get the lowest scores on? The benchmark scores. And then there's another thing called a key driver, which I'll explain more in just a minute. And then what are our highest and lowest factors? So our highest scoring factors, we had 3. You all said we have suitable activities, and that we have a clean community, and that we support, you have support to live independently. So those were our highest scoring factors. Our lowest scoring factors were services outside of business hours, the quality of our medical care, and understanding transition criteria. So I do want to mention quality of medical care because this survey is just from the independent living. It doesn't include people that actually live in the healthcare. they had a separate survey for that group, and we also regularly survey. It's a state requirement that we do annual surveys of satisfaction in healthcare, and that happens. And we tacked on this year's survey with this one, but they did a separate group, and they're not included in this data. So the quality of medical care is a perception from people in independent living. So it could be, I have someone that lives there, and that's how I got my opinion. I sought out care for myself at one point, and that's how I've come up with my opinion about it. Does that make sense? Okay, key drivers are another thing that we talk about. Key drivers show a strong relationship with resident engagement and play a role in driving engagement. If a key driver increases or decreases, so does engagement. So these questions were highly correlated with overall satisfaction. I don't completely understand how that works, but they are able to look at how many people responded to these particular factors, and they say, yep, these are important, and if we focus on these, they would drive satisfaction more than others. So, in order for something to be an area of strength or area of opportunity, they have to fall into at least two of these four categories: significantly positive yearly comparison, the top or bottom 15% benchmark, their key driver, or their highest scoring factor. So our areas of strength are suitable activities and support for living independently. And our areas of opportunity, nice way to put it, understanding transition criteria, opportunity for resident input, responsiveness to inquiries, quality of medical care, services outside of business hours, timeliness of communications, wellness and fitness programs, and quality of food. So these, when our senior management group got together, this is where we spent our energy, because these are the areas that will get the most bang for our buck if we work on these all the questions. We also had the verbatim, so you might remember writing a comment on your survey, one or two. We had 564 comments, and we had 28 pages of comments, lots of comments. We did read through those, and I gotta tell you, some of them are kind of hurt your feelings. Some of them are great. I mean, we got some really kind, thoughtful comments, but some of them were harsh. We are not going to share all 564 pages of the verbatim, but we live in the age of wonder here. Artificial intelligence. They were able to let the AI bot look at all that and come up with information out of that, analyze the information. It's quite interesting. So the questions that you wrote responses to were comments regarding engagement at Friendsview, what do you like best about Friendsview, and what do you suggest improvements at Friendsview. So they went through all those comments, and they said, here's the sentiment. I always want to say sediment. The sentiment of so the comments about activities and programs. Of all the comments, 65% of those were positive, 24 were neutral, and almost 10% were had areas for improvement. So these are the primary topics that were brought up in the verbatim. The housekeeping laundry, you see 100%, but there was only one comment about housekeeping and laundry, and it was a neutral comment. So that's why it says 100% there. But the rest have quite a few comments. Then this is the overall sentiment by topic, and you can see this is kind of looking at safety and security had the most positive comments at 0.75. Staff were also a lot of good comments about staff, fulfillment, connection, food and meals. Food and meals kind of got, sometimes for some questions they got needs improvement, for some they got, see dining services is down at the bottom, but food and meals got high. And then we got negative comments about voice, input, maintenance, dining services, dignity. Here was topics by frequency. So a lot of people talked about connection, connecting to the community, or voice and input. Communication was a big topic in our survey this year. A lot of that makes sense. We've added almost 200 people to our community. We've added 150 new employees over the last year. We're going to have communication issues to deal with. That makes sense. And then here's kind of this is another way of looking at it. The bigger the words are, the more importance there was in the whole verbatim. So connection. Oh yeah, I got a bug in my. So connection, voice input, activities and programs, medical, clinical, fulfillment, and some of the ones that just got small mentions were like housekeeping and laundry and dignity. So what are our next steps? So our senior managers, we took that list, the small list of 8 or 9 things, and we said, well, what are we going to do about this now? And again, this was one day we came together and put this together, so it still needs a lot of fleshing out and work, but this is the first, you get the first look at it. So we said, well, there's several of these that are about communication, looking for resident input, responsiveness to inquiries, and timeliness of communication. So we said our goal is that community members, residents, and staff will be able to locate and utilize a communication policy. So one of the first things that our group came up with was we need to develop a communication policy and say how we're going to communicate, if you're looking for input or information, you need a kind of a tree that'll help you find what you're looking for. So we said we're going to update, our action items are to update and develop a communication policy, create a communication tree. I can't remember what this was about, finished department sheets. We're working on updating our computer systems because some of our staff don't have email addresses. And Christina Jaramillo was able to get us not-for-profit IT software packages, and we've gotten a big discount on the cost of our computer programs, Microsoft. So we're going to be able to afford to get all of our staff their own email address, which I think will really help. And then design and implement resident feedback opportunities. We want to reinstitute the box for dropping in comments, and also create an electronic way that you can give comments so we can collect those. So for quality of medical care, say we're going to enhance care at home programs with defined services. So we have already been working on that. When you see this HS2, CHS2 and C06KR10, we have a program that we're working with called OKRs. You may have heard us talk about it earlier in the year. But these are the goals that we had already written for the OKRs. So when you look back at this, the action items, and you see CHS2, that refers to goals that we've already written and are working on. So we have defined the nurse visits in the resident handbook, develop a housekeeping service, explore vaccine clinics, explore nurse practitioner services, explore social service and counseling services, explore skilled services, that's like Medicare covered services, and understand associated fees and viability of offering these services. So we didn't have time to write dates and everything on this and when we're going to get it done, but these are the areas that we're going to be focusing on. Another area is understanding transition requirements. So we want to increase understanding of medical care and services through education and new offerings. Provide workshops. So we already had a goal in our OKRs about developing quarterly presentations that would be held for understanding all of the health services that we have on campus. So that's what CHS3. Develop understandable written communications that describe level of care provided in each health service neighborhood. Develop level of care at home brochure, and revamp current transitions and short stay processes. And we have quality of food, improve satisfaction related to quality of food, action items, new heat lamp and plate warmers. The heat lamps, because of the survey that we did earlier in the year on food, we already put in new heat warmers or heat lamps, but we still want to get some plate warmers. We have plate warmers in back of the house, but we don't have them in front. So we'd like to have plate warmers where you can grab a hot plate and put your food on it, so help keep the food warm. Improve service technologies. We need to replace our steamer and our grill. And do you see that word surprise? I can't tell you. It's a big surprise that I think you're all gonna enjoy. But I can't tell you because
soft serve ice cream.
Don't ask, don't tell. But there's going to be a wonderful surprise coming. Cassandra is excited to roll this out. A capital plan, a buffet remodel. We haven't really redone our dining room in some time. We have old tables, old chairs, the old buffet line, and we want in the next couple of years to completely redo that. We want to re-engage the food committee and get more participation in the food committee so we can get ongoing feedback. Education opportunities related to nutrition, dining services available, sensory changes relating to aging, and alcohol came up again and again on the survey. Some people want alcohol, some people don't. I have to let you know, if you want alcohol or don't want alcohol, it's a resident council issue. Dan's gonna not like me for that. But the board has said they don't they don't care. Whatever the residents want. Our senior management says the same thing. Whatever the residents want. So it's really up to you to come together and decide. I have to tell you, there's strong feelings on both sides. It's one of those topics. So I don't know how you're going to come to a decision about it, but management and the board will support your decision about alcohol. Setting goals for areas of opportunity. Another one is the wellness fitness programs. So we didn't quite understand. We still want more information. So we're going to be developing and administering some additional surveys asking for more input about what you'd like to see for wellness and fitness programs. What do you want? What do you need? We're going to complete a plan to relocate the game puzzle, pool table and puzzle space to provide movement space. So the pool table, I've been asking, why isn't that moved yet? I guess it weighs like 1,000 pounds or something. It's great. So they're still trying to figure out how to get it around the corner. But it's going to be in that area that's used to be the living room in the old health center, and then we're going to open up the hard floor area for one of the favorite things is line dancing. That'll be there, but other large movement type activities, and then we want to make sure that we include spiritual wellness questions in the survey. For the goals around service areas outside of business hours, similarly, we want more information. What services do you expect and what you need after business hours, so we can understand and set some goals around that. So we'll be sending out another survey for that. So that's the end of my report. And if there's questions, I think Laura's going to walk around with the microphone. I'll do my best on the questions. I only took one statistics class. Or maybe I took two, I just wasn't listening.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yes.
This is going to go turn this back on. Just so you know, the results, the full results of the Holleran study are posted on the hub. The icon for Holleran is not back on yet, but if you look under video recordings, it's listed there. So you'll see the printed results, and then we'll be posting this video along with the PowerPoint to that video link as well. And it will all live under its own icon shortly.
I'll do my best if someone wants to stand up and say their question. I'll do my best to repeat it from here. If we don't get the, oh, maybe here comes the microphone.
I'm curious to what kind of local laws come in if in fact you allow alcohol.
That's a good question. We would have to get permits, of course, to serve alcohol in public locations, but we are one of probably I think there's probably like 1 or 2% of retirement communities that don't serve alcohol in some fashion. We are very unique. The rest of them have happy hours and bars. Rose Villa has a cart that runs around in the village and offers drinks from this little golf cart. This is common in the rest of the world. We're just a unique environment. Do we want to keep that unique environment? or do we? That it's really, like I said, it's really up to the resident body to make that decision.
If you allowed alcohol, would it change? Would it cost everyone more money here? I mean, would it, like, for the food costs, would it go up?
So, I don't, you know, I know this is, like I said, this is a hot topic and people have a lot of, and if this is going to be, I think a community would have to, you would have to determine that. And I don't think this is a good place to talk about this subject, because we could probably talk all day about it. It just, the management would work with the community to make it happen if the community wanted it to happen. But I know there are some very strong opinions against it, and historically, Friendsview or Newburgh was a dry community back in the day. So, and Friendsview's been around a long time.
I'm getting my steps in. Thank you.
We aim to keep you physically fit. I'm thinking about the communication piece, and I understand the need for creating policies and things, but I also am aware that when I have issues and I communicate to the person who I think is most appropriate, if I don't hear back, which happens fairly frequently, then I don't know what to do next. And it seems to me that we need, even before all those policies, a clear, for us, indication of what the appropriate course of action is when we've asked somebody a specific question and they've either not answered or said they'll get back to us, and then weeks and weeks go by.
And is this for work orders or
Anything.
anything?
Yeah. Largely for me, it's maintenance stuff, but for other people, I know it's other things.
Yeah. I do know that we've been trying to figure out how to do some kind of feedback loop for work orders in particular, so that we've been trying to figure out how to do a place you can go online and look at your work order and see the status, and we're still struggling with that. So I'm not sure what the easy answer is on responsiveness, but I do want us to work on that. So I'm not sure what the answer is at this point.
You know, I just like to see name tags on everybody that works here. It's nice to have the residents have them, the whole dining staff, all those kids have name tags. I'd also like to know who the RNs and the LPNs are. I don't need to know, but I don't need titles other than that. But those are two things I think just ought to be standard.
I appreciate name tags too. Try to wear it every day.
I want to say this very carefully, and it's not a reflection on our wonderful wellness programs, physical activity, line dancing and all of that, but would be curious to know how you're defining spiritual wellness and why it's in with the wellness program rather than someplace else.
It's based on a concept that physical, mental, social, spiritual, that we're whole beings, and we're made up of those, and to have wellness, to have a sense of wellness in our lives, all those factors have to be supported. So you can't leave out spiritual wellness and still, if you had no spiritual wellness, you'd still be well. That's the concept. So all those concepts are included in being human and being well.
I'm wondering how many individuals in our community utilize the Chehalem Park and Recreation Facility, because Newburgh is one of those incredible towns that has such an outstanding fitness facility that we all have free to our disposal because of the connection. So I'm wondering if we have a sense of how many of our people use it. It's such a great resource.
Not very many.
That's a concern because it's just around the corner.
And we've made arrangements. We have so we, as a community, we've said we have this huge wellness center with pools and indoor walking tracks, and if you haven't been over there, you should go see. It's amazing. They have a lazy Susan or lazy river walking. You can walk in the water in a Circle 8. It is absolutely amazing, world-class fitness center, and it's just a block from here. And we've made an arrangement with the Parks and Rec Department to get discounts for our group, and we said, some communities have huge fitness and wellness budgets for exercise equipment, indoor pool, right in their community. And we said, why do we spend money on that when we have this right next door? So we've made it free to all the residents and all the staff. They can just come to the office and ask for a pass, and they can go for free. And we hope the community will take advantage of that. But we know sometimes it's hard for folks to get out and do that. So we have kind of a basic. We don't have a real fancy fitness center downstairs, but we have a basic fitness. We have one downstairs, and we have one out at Springbrook, and we hope that that'll meet some needs too. We have walking paths in the canyon, which I must say are getting repaired at the end of the month. The paths in the canyon will be closed for a time. They're coming up in a couple weeks. We have all those resources, and I think we're going to have to do some additional surveys to understand what people are wanting or needing and where we focus our attention. Did that answer your?
Can I say something about that? You put a mic in my hand and I can't help myself. Real quick, Di, because that's a really good question. And I did the numbers real quick, and we have, for those who are running their membership at the Aquatic Center through Friendsview, we have about 200 visits per month. So that could be one person going every single day. It could be, it's a variety of when people are going. That doesn't include those of you who run it through your insurance and have it for free over there. So Friendsview does pay a nominal fee every time someone goes to the fitness center. And Abel and I are looking at some ways to try to figure out how we can do more promotion around what they're offering over there and other things. So we're aware that that's an underutilized place. There's one back here, and then we'll come back up.
I just might suggest that we publicize that maybe a bus will take people over, because for some people it's not easy to walk that far. But there are buses.
Yeah, bus service is what would be great to have. We're working on that.
I was going to second what our neighbor just said, and maybe even incorporate that into shopping. If he goes to Safeway, then, you know, the fitness center is right on the way, but I don't know how bus service works. We've been here 14 months, and, you know, the first, I hope this didn't come in as a negative from the bot, but I commented on how the work orders were just completely overwhelming for maintenance staff the first 6 months, I think, that Sutton was open. And so I noted that. But overall, there's just so much, and it just was so overwhelming, and it was so good. There's so many wonderful things here. And having some of that in more specific form in the welcoming packets, I think, was one thing that I suggested. And sometimes the communication's really great, but there's just one specific thing missing. You mentioned the paths being, the Creekside path being done. And there was, at least for some of us, request for possibly matching grants and seeing if you wanted to make a donation. Also for the Employee Appreciation Fund. Is that tax deductible?
Yes.
But I didn't see that on the last memo.
Yeah, Friendsview is not for profit, and we have different accounts that we keep track of, employee scholarship, employees appreciation, resident assistance fund, and different other projects occasionally. This came up because we had a very generous anonymous donation, $50,000, for pushing that canyon project up on our capital list. So we got the $50,000, and then the resident council, I think they've offered $10,000 from the resale shop proceeds, and then the contractor that we chose to use is donating $6,000, and then we've had, I think in the last few days we had $3,000 just from private individuals, and we've had another $4,000 that are coming. So I think we're just a couple thousand away from meeting our goal of $75,000 to complete the project.
That's
so
wonderful.
It's very exciting.
And to my point, I might have just overlooked it or skimmed it, but if there's a notice asking for something like this, something at the bottom saying Friendsview is a 501c3 nonprofit, and anything you give toward A, B, C, or D, whatever it is fully tax deductible to whatever the law, whatever that disclosure is. That would make it easier for us to fully give and know that we don't have to check with the IRS later on.
Okay, that's good reminder. I also know that those get processed very quickly, and you get your donation letter promptly. So, because I see those and sign those almost every day when somebody makes a donation.
Two things, Todd. One, by way of encouragement, I hope, and perhaps it's anecdotal, but on the subject of work orders, I found that the feedback loop through the hub, community apps, whatever we're calling it these days, that's worked really well. So it's very easy to update your work order, and my experience has been it works great. Second, to kind of bootstrap on what Maggie said about communication, and this is for resident association, but since we have the lead member of the SALT, maybe something that for your consideration as well as you work this out together. Current guidance for communication from residents to staff is to work through our neighborhood chair. There are situations, which again, I know anecdotally, where the communication that is sent is either changed, diluted, or the neighborhood chair may not be in agreement with the resident regarding the communication. So as you're looking for communication channels, can you start to also explore, as Maggie suggested, maybe some alternative channels when things aren't going the way that you would like or expect them to?
That's a good idea. So you might have saw the the idea of the communication tree, which I hope will work that way. You know, you start here and you have somewhere to go if next if you don't get satisfaction. I hope that's how it'll run, but I appreciate that input.
This is, I guess, an addendum to Ken's concern about the designation of tax deductibility. I think it's probably an issue of consistency in communication because the notifications I've seen do have that notice at the bottom of it.
Okay.
Maybe some of them don't, but the ones that I've seen do very clearly say your contribution is tax deductible.
I know I've heard people say that during periods like when Bill stands up to ask for donations for the resident education fund, but I think sometimes we might forget to mention that. So I know we need to be consistent. Yeah.
Another point or question I have, I guess the question is whether this is an opportunity for suggestions or should we just stay focused specifically on those results? Because I do have a suggestion regarding the employee appreciation fund.
We have, I don't know what it is, but we do have a resident appreciation committee. There's Francie over there.
me.
Okay, I talked to one of your people the other day, but I'll go right to the horse's mouth.
There you go.
Horses,
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, it was a pleasure meeting with you today, and we'll continue to update folks on our progress with these. There's one more question in the back.
Todd, it's not a question, but it's just a statement. You have a thankless job, so I want to say, for all of us, we should say thank you.
Thank you for that. It was a pleasure to get your feedback, and thank you for making this a successful satisfaction and engagement survey with 80% participation. That's absolutely fantastic, and that shows engagement if nothing else does. So thank you.